Insights on the future of finance here at the U.S. Bank Lounge. We're at Money 2020 in Las Vegas, and we're continuing our series. I'm Steve Johnson. Today with us, we have Chris Dean, CEO and co-founder of Treasury Prime, and from the inside, U.S. Bank's head of emerging solutions and embedded payments, Mike Jorgensen. Thank you, gentlemen, for getting away from all of your other meetings to be able to meet with us here in the booth.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I want to start with our guest. Mike, you can sit and wait for a little bit. You started a Treasury Prime about 8 years ago. Yep. You've been at the forefront of a lot of the work that you're doing in this connective world that you're living in. What is it that you took from your role as CTO, your serial role as CTO at a number of enterprises that informed you most about this particular enterprise?
Sure. I've been the startup guy forever. I made most of my early money with being the CTO guy, building the thing in Silicon Valley. That was what I did. I'm very good at it. And my buddy said, help me out with my banking problem. And I'm like, I don't even know what a bank is. But he convinced me in the room, which no one's done before or since. And I learned that from my perspective, a big nerd, the technical guy, U.S. banking system is a genius way of organizing a financial system. And it's also like a semi-broken big computer. And I saw that and I went, oh, this is my world. I know how to fix that.
I love fixing computers.
Yeah, 100%. And that was it. You can see that it's a system. And that's what I'm used to building, is these large distributed systems. I did machine learning for a long time, which half the problem is just like getting all the computers to talk to each other. And I looked at this and said, you got to get all the banks to talk to each other. You got to get all the fintechs and the corporates and all talk to each other. You do that, everything will be fine. I don't have to tell them what to do. I just have to let them talk to each other.
So this is like technical relationship.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're going to get back into how this all does come together. But Mike, let's first start talking about from the side of embedded payments. And I was able to work with your team over the last year or so when we were thinking, all right, how do we best define embedded payments? Because it could slide into a whole place where some people's alignment on it is different than others. How do you see that term as defined? And then as you go through that, why is it such a big piece of the banking world today?
Yeah, and I love what Chris said about systems. Yeah. We have a lot of people out there that want to fix problems with systems, and U.S. Bank wants to be able to meet people there. So there's ecosystems that Treasury Prime and other customers bring together. They solve problems, but they're not banks, and they need payment rails. Those payment rails are the things that we do well. And so with embedded payments, our whole mission is to bring the payment rails so it's frictionless, it's seamless, and it really drives the value of what U.S. Bank brand is back behind the scenes and makes it invisible. So, what does that mean to the consumers that are out there in the world today? They're looking for ways to solve problems. They want to be able to hop into a car, just like with an Uber ride, and say, hey, on my app, I want to be able to pay and I want to deal with my ride and everything in one place. That is embedded payments that we're expanding across many different types of ecosystems to be able to bring the brand and the power of U.S. Bank right into the middle of that consumer experience. So we make things easier for the consumers. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do, is make life better for the people that he serves.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things you said earlier, you said, what's a bank? You did spend time at a bank, and, with that long career in finance and being actually within the bank at that time, how does that inform your knowledge of what it is that the U.S. Bank needs? Because you've been on that side of the fence before, right, as you were building this up. What was it that really stuck with you most?
Like I said, my buddy convinced me to, help him with his startup. We sold that to Silicon Valley Bank, and I'm like, I'll be there for a hot minute. Kind of crazy person works at a bank. No, thank you. And I stayed there for 2 years, and I loved it. And I was like, I entered working for the bank, assuming the bank was unimportant and assuming that the bank was archaic and a thing of the past. And I'm inside, I'm like, this is the opposite of that. It is the most important piece that I've been missing this whole time. And that's what got me excited, because I'm like, Silicon Valley Bank back then was 10 years ago, right? They were doing things that I thought were hard and useful. And frankly, the clients took it for granted. And I was excited because I wanted to have that. I wanted that success for all these people. I wanted, like you said, meet them where they're at. I wanted to be where they are and help them. And, I talked to US Bank and they're like, they have the same attitude, right? They actually are this giant bank who really wants to help people. They don't need to get credit for all the hard work they do, but they do it every day. And that's my thing. It's like, no one sees the banks when they're working. They only see them when they're not working. But 99.99% of the time, they're just doing an amazing job.
Well, that kind of leads to this next question of this connected partnership network that US Bank's got, and that idea of, maybe there's something there. It's like we got to make sure everyone that's a part of this has the like mind, so that we are thinking about how we're serving the end user, the end customer, be it retail or an individual, the right way. Tell me a little bit more about that ethos with this particular network, how it developed, why.
So following up on what Chris just said, we wanted to be able to bring their ecosystem in and allow them to have access to our payments. Yeah. The Connected Partnership Network makes it super easy for a company like Treasury Prime to use our APIs, grab the payments and the reporting, and be able to take that out to all of the US Bank customers that are on his system and platform. That's really the genesis behind the Connected Partnership Network. For us, it's a differentiator. Not many other banks do this out there. It's an easy way for us to be able to take our payments, make them accessible natively in an app or an environment that our customers have. And that just makes the experience so much better. So instead of a customer saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to go to Treasury Prime and do 3 functions, and now I got to pop over to US Bank. They do it all within the Treasury Prime platform. And the other thing we've done too is for a partner like Treasury Prime, we allow them an easier onboarding. We can go ahead and say, hey, we know you as a company. It's very expedited. It moves very quickly, so they can get up and running and do things very quickly along the lines of what their revenue plans are.
Yeah. And don't forget that. Like, I deal with a lot of banks, and I can tell you most of it is like pulling teeth to get anything done. And frankly, you were different. It was easy. And I did the thing I always do. It never works. I called my guy and I said, I need something escalated. Can we handle it? And they always say, sure, no problem. And then it never happens. I did it twice with US Bank, and it happened both times. They're like, no problem. Give me a day. And it was a day, and that was fixed. And that was different.
And we're proud of that.
Yeah.
We're proud that we're a big bank that can actually bring speed to a customer.
Yeah.
Because we solve problems faster. If you drag things out for somebody like Treasury Prime, then you just simply are losing opportunities along the way. So that was a very key premise to the Connected Partnership Network, is the ease of use and making sure that they could be successful.
So the network's been around for how long now?
It's been around for 2 years now.
So within these 2 years, has that, and especially because as you're bringing on partnerships like with Treasury and those types of things, have you changed the onboarding? Have you changed the vetting of who's coming in and how they're coming in? Has that evolved to be more specific, to be more direct, to manage people's expectations of what both sides are supposed to be doing?
It is. It has. And the reason why is because we listen to our customers. They come in and say, hey, that was a little bit of friction we felt here. It took a long time. Why did that take so long when you could have got all the information from me up front? So we've taken a look at our process, our website, the way we post our logos. I believe we just did a press release with you too.
We did.
That whole process is very, very seamless now to be able to move through the whole process.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the press release, because one of the questions I had was, okay, how is this network helping you with your clients? How is it helping down the line? Tell me about the press release. Just tell me what's the status of this? How do you see it evolving?
So we have a ton of fintech clients who they do banking stuff, right? And they need access to the kind of tools and payment rails and everything that US Bank does. And the big press release for me is just letting them all know this is true. Like, we did the public one for sure. And like, thank you. Great marketing. Wonderful. But most of the ones I really cared about is that I could send an email to every single one of my existing clients, say, hey, I have US Bank. Remember when you wanted to do something hard and you couldn't do it? Now you can do it. I talked to someone, what was that, 90 minutes ago, and they're like, I'm happy with this bank, but I also want to do this thing. Like, well, you could go to the US Bank now. I said, wait, you turned on US Bank? I'm like, didn't you not read your email?
I'll resend it. I'll put it at the top.
But that was 90 minutes ago. So that's the whole thing for me. And they were, don't underestimate the reputation the U.S. Bank has. It's very, very solid. Like, it's trustworthy. They know what they're doing. And as soon as I said that to this guy, and I'm like, yeah, you want to move another, I don't know what they do every year, like 10, 15 billion they move every year. Like, you can do that at U.S. Bank and it'll be easy.
Yeah.
And Steve, by the way, that's the next chapter that we talk about at U.S. Bank. How do we take our brand and our stability and being this quiet bank that just does a lot of really good things behind the scenes? How do we do it faster, and how do we come to market in a different way? That's where we're at today. Connected Partnership is one example of that. We have many other examples where we take our banking services to customers.
Gunjan, we talked about how, the charter is 160 years old for this bank. It is a big traditional bank history-wise. And if you look through the windows here and you look at the kinds of names that are out there, they all have those very modern, throw 5 words together and that's your new name of your company. So there is that sheen of, hey, this is who they are. And they're also on the front end of these payments, of embedded payments. As you walk around here, is everybody aligned? Even in this very forward-looking venue, very aligned on this definition of embedded payments even here? Or is there still room for interpretation?
There's still wobble. And it's because there's so many things that you can look at between embedded payments and embedded finance and the different paths you can go down. The one thing that we've noticed from a bank perspective, which is a big part of our brands, is the stability you need to bring from a risk and a compliance perspective. We have Chris, we have others that come to us and say, hey, we need the brand and the prominence of U.S. Bank behind us because we know you guys will not be a risky partner, that you guys will follow in a compliant fashion. Everything needs to happen. Our model allows us to be firsthand KYC, to monitor all the transactions, and to have all the tools that allow him to sleep well at night, knowing that we provide payment rails that do the right thing. So I don't know that everybody on the show floor necessarily knows that or understands that just yet, because they're still trying to figure out how do they play in the space and figure out how to build their brand in the same way.
No, they don't know it at all. That's what I think. I think they like half of these, 3/4 of these people out here thinks what U.S. Bank does is easy and they don't have to do much checking. They just turn it on and it all works. I'm like, that is not how this happens at all. It is the enormous amount of behind the scenes work to make sure everything's safe and sound. And they do that. I mean, I love that.
Well, I think that gets to the question of collaboration between fintechs and banks like this, and what makes for what's the first thing that makes for that good relationship to blossom, and what is it that might be the challenge that's still it's still a little rough to get through, that still takes a little extra dialogue, still takes a couple extra meetings. So what are the headwinds? What are the tailwinds for a relationship?
Yeah. Banking still today, true 100 years ago, it's a relationship business, right? You got to have a good relationship. And the thing that, I don't know if it's tricky here, but in general, that's tricky with banks is you ask for something and they say maybe. They don't say yes. They don't say no. They say maybe. But that's really a soft no. And they won't tell you why. Like, you need to, both sides need to say, I need this thing. And then the person on the bank side has to have a way like, here's how we can deliver that to you with these changes so everything remains compliant and safe and, lowers the risk and all that. That's the challenge I see here, that we all have to do that. Do you see that at all?
I do. And I think there's a natural motion that a bank has to go through to say, is this transaction or is this customer partnership going to be something that fits with our culture? The one thing that I really like about U.S. Bank is we ask the questions up front, we map out the flows, and we work collaboratively with our customers to say, hey, if this is what you're doing, what you want to accomplish, here are the options we have available. Can you play within these options? That's a key tenet of the Connected Partnership Network and our embedded payments platform that allows us to make very quick decisions with Chris and others to say, is this going to fit for you and can we help you?
So many of the treasury prime clients the fintech clients are just these fast growing startups, right? They're trying new things every day. They're growing like a weed. It's great. They need a definitive answer, so they can navigate their space. No is fine. No is an okay answer, right? Everyone's okay with that. but maybe's not.
Maybe's a problem,
Maybe's
right?
a problem.
Maybe's a little soft.
That's right.
Efficiency's got to be a part of that also. So as you're building from this macro side, and we've been seeing it with some of the things that are being announced that are be coming up. What is it that? How do you keep that eye on making sure that efficiency though still plays a good role, and that you're learning to be more efficient as you go through the steps?
Well, that's got to be a key part of the ingredient for the recipe, right? Is that you have to not only learn from your customers, but we have to learn from the market, and we have to learn from how we can do things better at scale. That's one of the things that we're really focused on now is as we have not only made it and landed into the space where we do embedded payments really well, now we look at how do we scale, and we go across new ecosystems or new things. There are cutting edge things that come out every day around the market. People are asking at this conference a lot about crypto and a lot about stable coins and all the different things that are changing. We as a bank have to make sure that we know where to insert ourselves and where embedded payments can benefit our customers. And you can't do that without becoming more efficient and staying knowledgeable on what the market has to offer.
And you said meeting customers where they are.
That's
you
right.
mentioned that before, and then that's always shifting, and you got to do some projecting out there. You got to anticipate, right? How is it that your piece of the business is evolving so that you can work with like new business models, that you can meet these ever-changing customer expectations?
Like, I think it was said really well by Gunjan earlier on the main stage today. She said fintechs and banks and some in the ecosystem, payment service providers, they've been frenemies for a long time, I think is what she said. Now, what we're understanding is there's a really distinct part of where partnership and where consistent locking arms and going forward together makes a ton of sense. Obviously, there's boundaries on where a bank does what a bank does and a fintech does what a fintech does. But at the end of the day, we come to the table saying that we now have something to offer. And that's how we've really evolved in this space, is we've said, how do we make ourselves invisible? The US Bank brand may not even be in front of somebody, but we're powering the payments behind these other applications. That is a very, very important place to play in. And that's something that we're very committed to.
Yeah. I think this trade-off between performance, efficiency, and safety is a false one. Like, you can do both. It just work. And just make sure you do the work, because if you give on one, you're going to lose the other, right? If it's safe but incredibly inefficient, knowing to work, no one's going to use it. So what's the point, right? If it's very inefficient but unsafe, no one's going to use it because you're losing everybody's money. Like, you got to do both. And it's not impossible. It's just work. Just do the work, right?
You are a serial founder. You certainly, and when you see a gap or either you're talked into a gap, you're able to go forward with it. Are you liking the way that this piece of the banking finance business has evolved, and the way that your organization has been able to evolve with it, find partners that will evolve with it? And do you think that is something that you'll keep doing? You'll be able to find a trend that will evolve a business in this partnership? Or do you also see yourself saying, okay, maybe I got another founding opportunity. I'm not going to do it through this organization. I'm going to do another enterprise. How do you balance that
That's a great question. Someone in my shoes sees like once a week a new cool idea that they could do instead. And I'm not that guy. I mean, I see them, I don't do them. I'm doing this one. That's it, right? I'm committed. I got the religion. I'm doing this one. I think the thing that is working now well is that a lot of the mediocre players kind of like had problems and they're gone. The regulatory space is generally seeming more comfortable with this these days than they were maybe even 3 or 4 years ago. And I think that's the key here. If the regulators, the banks, and the fintechs all want the same thing and know what the rules are, everyone's going to be happy. These are not hard problems to solve. You just have to solve them.
Finish us out, Mike. Is there a trend line that you're seeing that you're excited about, or that you would like to see become a trend for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, that really probably turbocharges this particular piece of US Bank's business?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what Chris's perspective was on this. You look at it, you say, how does everybody get along and figure out how to do it the right way? And then how do we accelerate from there? I feel like we're at the acceleration phase right now.
Yeah.
We've learned how to do it the right way and how to work together, not only customers, but also with regulators, with consumers. It's coming together. So what do I see on the horizon? we've talked a little bit about the connected partnership network today. That's how do I let partners come in and grab what they need from us to use it. We also are doubling down on how do we go to customers and go directly into their ecosystems. We have direct embedded payments we can do if somebody owns and operates their own website or if they have some of their own systems. We also have a for benefit of model that is leading the market today in how we can offer money movement on behalf of. And that would be able to use the bank's accounts and help these fintechs and other service providers move the money. So as I look at the horizon, there's a massive, massive opportunity that sits in that space where we can start branching off into different use cases. We're just now scratching the surface, getting into those right now.
Christine, founder of Treasury Prime, thank you very much for being our collective guest here. And of course, Mike Jorgensen with US Bank, emerging solutions, embedded payments. Thanks for playing a role in all of this.
Thank you very much.
You were great. Thank you.
All right. We're going to have more down the line, this series of the future of finance right here, US Bank's Lounge at Money 2020.